You feel like you might be at the mercy of your doctor, but you're not. You can advocate for yourself in that. And I think the first step in advocating for yourself is having information. Knowledge is power. Hi, thanks for clicking on Simply Tanika. I am Tanika. If you are new here, welcome. Hit that subscribe button. Let's hang out a while. If you are returning, welcome back. What's up, fertility fam? We gotta do what? Let's get those babies, ladies. Drops fall and the beauty of it all. What's up, fertility fam? How are you? I hope that you are well. Welcome to the video about what to talk to your reproductive endocrinologist about in your first visit. If you're new here and you came here just for this video, I am sorry that you are struggling with infertility, but I promise this video will be useful, so stick around to the end. I've got some tips of what to do before you get to the RE, reproductive endocrinologist, and after. All right, so congratulations. We're going to keep it positive that you have taken the next step into bringing your baby home. You have plans to visit a reproductive endocrinologist or a fertility clinic or fertility doctor. What you want to do before you get into the office, there's two things. One, you want to understand where you are in your current situation. If you have a spouse or a partner, you also want to know where they are. So you can go and get all these lovely tests done at your general practitioner or PCP, primary care physician. You want to have a physical done. You want to have your annual well woman exam done. If you are of the age that you need a mammogram, you want to have that done. And then also, while you're having your physical done, ask your doctor to run all of your vitamin panels and all of your hormone panels. And you can just tell them, I'm going to be going through fertility treatments and I need to have this information. If you are not sure what those are, I will leave it down in the description box below. But it's basically things like vitamin D, which is actually a hormone, melatonin, your DHEAs, your testosterone, prolactin, etc. You want to get all of that tested. Depending on how long you've been trying, if you've worked with your OBGYN, you may have already done some preliminary tests. For example, your cycle day 2, cycle day 3 blood work. If you haven't, you'll want to get that done before you meet with the RE as well. And that's just a simple blood test. They're looking for your follicle stimulating hormone, your luteinizing hormone, your estrogen, or E2, just to see where you are, and probably your P4, which is your progesterone. That gives an indication of where your body is and sort of what your reproductive capability is at that moment in time. Don't worry about any of those. They change every cycle. It's just, like I said, it's giving an indication, but it's not 100% finite, which is a good thing for us. Another test that you want to have done is your AMH, and this tells basically what it predicts. It's like a guesstimate of how many eggs you have left or your egg reserve. You get that, again, it's a simple blood test. So you want to have that done, and then the second thing before you meet with the reproductive endocrinologist is you want to have your finances in order. So if you have insurance that's going to cover some or all of your fertility treatments, you want to make sure you understand exactly what that coverage is. So definitely get a call into that. If it's your insurance or your spouse's insurance, if you guys have different ones from your company, make sure you understand both of them. You may need to leverage both of them. You want to understand if you can get a 0% interest credit card, or if you can get any type of loan from your 401k at work, because you're basically borrowing from yourself and paying yourself back. So you just want to understand what your financial picture is before you walk into the reproductive endocrinologist. It's going to save you a ton of stress later. Trust me. Okay? All right, so we've gotten all that done. You've gotten all your testing done. You've made your appointment with the reproductive endocrinologist. You've sent all of your paperwork in. Oh, did I mention your partner, if he's a male, should have his sperm tested. He can just go to a urologist and have that done. You're looking for motility, mobility, and morphology. You want to have that done in advance as well. Otherwise, you're going to have it done at the RE's office, and then it will just take longer from your first appointment. So the more tests you can get done up front, the easier and more productive the conversation is when you get in to see the RE. Okay, so you made your appointment, you're going in, the doctor has looked at all of your tests before you got in. What is your first question? What is your diagnosis? Like, why does the doctor think you have been having trouble conceiving? Is it a sperm issue, which they call male factor, or MFI, male factor infertility? Or is it maybe you have PCOS? Maybe your prolactin is really high. Maybe your thyroid is out of whack. Is there anything in your test results that indicate to your doctor a hint as to why you may be struggling? And if so, what does the doctor recommend that you do about it, right? So there are different things, like if you have high blood pressure, there are things you can do to combat that and reduce your blood pressure. So depending on what that first answer is, then you want to know what, if anything, the doctor recommends that you do. Should you be taking more vitamins? Like I had low vitamin D, so I had to start taking vitamin D. Whatever it is, you want to know what you can be doing, and also ask about lifestyle changes. Is there anything in that the doctor recommends you change about your lifestyle? Like, for example, maybe your husband is like a long distance biker and he's in tight biker shorts all the time. Maybe that's impacting his sperm. If he stops that, or if he wears, I don't know, looser biker shorts, if there is such a thing, will that help increase? And how much time does it take? So for example, when I started taking my vitamin D supplements, we waited about 90 days because it took about 90 days for the impact of the supplementation to really be noticeable in my body or impactful in my body. So you want to know, like, how much time is that going to take? Because there's no point in starting treatment right away if you're taking these supplements and your body hasn't really had time to absorb them, benefit from them. So that is an important question to ask. The next thing you want to go over with your doctor is, what are your treatment options and which ones does the doctor recommend that you start with? So you might have, for example, they may say do timed intercourse. Maybe you haven't been so great at tracking your ovulation. They're going to control that part for you, so they'll start with timed intercourse. Maybe they start you with an IUI, an intrauterine insemination, where they leave all your eggs intact. They may give you an ovulation induction medication like a Clomid or Femara/letrozole, and then they're going to have your partner's sperm washed, and the best sperm are then going to be injected inside of your uterus, hence intrauterine insemination, and they're going to let those swimmers do what they do naturally from there. Then potentially you progress to IVF, and maybe it's ICSI, intracytoplasmic sperm injection, where they take one egg, one sperm, and put it together. Usually happens if there's a male factor issue going on, so that way they pick the 1 best sperm or the 7 best sperm or the 20 best sperm, however many eggs you get, and inject them directly into the eggs, and so that increases your chances of fertilization. So you want to know what those treatments are, like what would work for you. So for example, if you have a missing fallopian tube as a woman, or both of your tubes are missing, I'm sorry if they are, the doctor's not going to recommend an intrauterine insemination, right? Because it's not likely to be successful. They are injecting the sperm into your uterus, and then there's no kind of way because the tubes are gone, for them to get to the ovary. So it's going to depend on the specifics of your situation, but you want to make sure you understand what they're recommending, well, what your options are, and then what the doctor is recommending. So options based on your circumstances, and then recommendation based on the doctor's own protocol, etc. Then once he tells you what his recommendation or her recommendation is, 2 of my REs were women, then you want to understand how many successes has the doctor had with that treatment on other people. And not only successes of pregnancy rate, but live birth rate. So if a doctor gives you a number, a percentage, you want to ask specifically, is that live birth or is that pregnancy? Because unfortunately, not all pregnancies make it to live birth. So if they have like a 30% chance with the pregnancy rate, but a 10% chance with live birth rate, you want to know that, so you're comparing apples to apples, especially if you're meeting with multiple reproductive endocrinologists. So yeah, just ask them what's the success rate they've had. If you are over 35, you definitely want to talk about the impact of your age. I think we all know sort of on a surface level that as we age, our reproductive health declines, but you want to know specifically if your age is impacting and in what way the doctor feels like it's impacting, and is there anything you can do to offset that. I know a lot of doctors now are recommending that their advanced maternal age patients, don't get offended, everybody 35 and older having a baby is advanced maternal age. But they're recommending that they take things like DHEA and CoQ10 / ubiquinol, the ubiquinol form, to help energize those eggs, right, and increase their count. So those are some questions that you'll go over with the doctor. Don't be surprised if at that first appointment he or she has you do an ultrasound. They'll be looking for what is called an antral follicle count, or AFC, and just counting how many follicles are in each ovary, and they'll give you a number that becomes your AFC. And basically what that is that's the foundation for what you're working with every cycle. So if you have 20 antral follicle counts, it's likely that 20 or less will be what is activated. For example, if you're doing IVF. If you're doing IUI, you only want 1 or 2 to mature, or to follicles to develop and then potentially mature while you're going through treatment. But if you're doing IVF, obviously the more eggs you have, the better your chances, just because that's how odds work, right? If you have 50 lottery tickets, you have a better chance of winning than if you have 1 lottery ticket. So the AFC becomes important in that. And those are, so FSH, the follicle stimulating hormone, AFC, antral follicle count, and AMH, anti-merollin hormone. I'm sure I'm butchering that. Those kind of give like a picture of your overall potential fertility. You'll hear a lot of women talk about them. I'm just going to say, don't get discouraged by any of those numbers. Anything is possible, even if they tell you have a 1% chance. As my good friend Lily G, TTC, says, 1% is not 0. AMH is a fixed number, and again, it's a guesstimate. Typically, it is not going to increase. It only declines over time because all of the eggs that you have, you were born with. And it seems silly because you're like, well, all of the arms I have, I was born with. But your arm, the cells are always regenerating. Yes, you still have these 2 arms, but every cell that creates arms, hands, fingers, fingernails has turned over 1 trillion times in your lifetime, but the cells that create your eggs have not. And so they're just, the old gray Mary, what she used to be as it gets older. So does that make sense? If not, let me know down below. Okay, so at the beginning of the video, I said you want to prep with knowing what your financial situation is before you go in. I do want to make an important point that you're not going to talk about finances with your doctor. I know a lot of people will want to do that. It's just not protocol. I don't think, it's just not. You are going to talk to a financial counselor. So the doctor's going to go over your options with you, and then you need to find out, okay, who do I talk to go over the different options and the recommendations that you've made. And sometimes it's a little bit like a buffet. You can pick and choose what treatments you want to have. So if you're not sure you want to have everything, talk through each option with the doctor. Take copious notes, because you're going to need that information when you go and talk to the financial counselor, right? So if they're recommending ICSI, there may be an additional charge. That's the sperm, right? That's getting washed and then inserted directly into there. If they're recommending that, there may be an additional charge for that versus a standard IVF where they just put the sperm in a dish with the eggs and let them, do what they gonna do. So make sure you understand the treatment while you're talking to the doctor. You're going to go to the financial coordinator and discuss how much it's going to cost. And the financial coordinator, typically before your appointment, has already contacted your insurance, if you have insurance, and gotten that information. That's why I'm saying it's good for you to have it. Like for me, my last RE, they made a mistake and said after 35, no one gets treatment. They misunderstood what was being said by my insurance provider. The rule there is that over 35 IUI is not covered, not that nothing is covered. Whoever made the phone call stopped there and just checked all the boxes that I was excluded because I was over 35. Because I knew what my insurance was, I pushed back and said, they've spoken to the wrong person, or they haven't, done their proper due diligence. So it took a while, but we finally got to where we were meant to be. So don't go in there blind expecting that they will explain all of your benefits to you. They're your benefits. You pay for them. So make sure you understand what they are. But once you get to the financial counselor, you'll get to discuss all of that. Here are the options. Let us know the pricing, because if that's a factor for you, you need to know that ahead of time before you move forward with treatment, right? So I just had to go off on that tangent. Let's go back in the doctor's office for a second, though. Ask the doctor if there are any other tests that he or she recommends that you take in order to help further a diagnosis. If they come back with something like unknown infertility, ask what the recommendations are. It's sort of a blanket term, and so you can get a little lost in that. Don't be put off by it, though. I would say give it a couple of cycles of whatever they're recommending and then see from there. They may have more information as they treat you. That's the kind of the quirky thing about infertility or fertility treatments. There's so many things going on. They don't all work for different people. And even the same person, the treatment they had in cycle 1 and got pregnant, had a baby, lived happily ever after, and then they decided they wanted a sibling, that treatment might not work 3 years later. So it's a little bit of like putting a puzzle piece together. So sometimes, especially if it's your first RE, you're going to want to have a little bit of leeway and make adjustments. So if one cycle doesn't work, do we need to make adjustments? Think though, or remember though, even if you're normal, perfectly healthy, 22, perfectly fertile, partner's fertile, everything's good, you only have a 25% chance of pregnancy every month. So don't get freaked out when they start giving you percentages and chances. Some doctors will offer donor eggs. I now know that's a standard question. I was very offended by the first time I heard it. So if they ask you if you're open to donor eggs, have that conversation. You may or may not have thought about it. I definitely suggest thinking about it before you get in there. That child will not be biologically related to you. Same if you have a spouse who has sperm issues and you get donor sperm, will not be biologically related to you. They will do a good job of helping you select someone who looks physically like you. But yeah, those are, it's so many decisions. Do you want to have donor embryos where it's like a different mom and dad biologically that you're going to carry that child? How we complete our families is a very personal choice. So I'm not advocating for one or the other. I'm just saying consider all your options and be fully informed when you go in there. Does that make sense? So your doctor has talked to you about what your options are and what he or she recommends. Now what? Make sure you understand what each option entails, right? So I talked about the kind of Chinese buffet where you pick and choose, but beyond like picking and choosing what is recommended and why you shouldn't have it or should have it, or, some doctors are heavy-handed about pre-genetic screening, others aren't. There's an additional cost. It's usually not covered by insurance. So understanding kind of those things, and that way you can decide what you want on your plate, if you will. The other thing is understanding what it means. What are these, like, if you select IVF, have them talk you through what that is. Like, you're going to have to come in for monitoring. How many days of shots? Do you have to take time off of work? Go end to end so your expectations are set about what that treatment means, because that may impact which one you decide of the recommendations, right? If you have a job where you're traveling all the time, you're going to have to figure out, does it make sense for you to do IVF? Are you going to have a 10 to 14 day span in your life that you can go into the doctor every other day? So you need to talk through what that is. And then speaking of jobs, because most of us have them, what are the monitoring hours of the clinic? Because you're going to have to work around your work schedule, right? So are they open at 7 a.m.? Are they open at 6 a.m.? Do they ask when are the monitoring hours if one of your plans has a lot of monitoring? If you're doing timed intercourse, it's less demanding, but just ask, like, what are your are you open on Saturday and Sunday? Are you open on holidays? I'm surprised. I see that a lot on other videos where their clinics are not open on Saturday and Sunday. They close on Christmas. You need to know that going in. I've been fortunate enough that the clinics, my 3 that I've gone to, have all had early morning hours, and not that I'm there early, but if I need that option, they open at 7. And then they're open on Christmas, they're open on Thanksgiving. As it turned out, I had to go in for one of my retrievals was the day after Thanksgiving. So I went in the day before for blood work, which was Thanksgiving Day. Hello, Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade in the middle of New York. I had to get through there to get my blood work done to confirm that I had given myself the trigger shot properly. So luckily that worked out, because you're priming your body and doing all these things to it. And so you want to make sure that your body's needs are being met, meaning if you're ready to go on a Saturday that happens to be Christmas, you want to know if your clinic is open. a lot of clinics will cycle people through. They'll put them all on birth control so they can time it out. So it may not be as restrictive if they have limited hours. But again, have that conversation with your doctor. Ask, like, are we going to be grouped together? Some people do all of their, or some clinics do all of their retrievals at the same time, all of their transfers at the same time. No judgment. Just know that it's different. It's going to be more of a factory feeling, like a lot of bodies when they're putting you on birth control and kind of, pardon the pun, herding you through. But yeah, if you're okay with that, or if like they're doing that to make it more cost efficient, just depends on your circumstances, but be informed. Set your expectations. It's already emotional, right? It's a lot going on. You're trying to complete your family. You're looking forward to holding your baby. At that point, you feel like you might be at the mercy of your doctor, but you're not. You can advocate for yourself in that. And I think the first step in advocating for yourself is having information. Knowledge is power. That wasn't just a Saturday cartoon that we saw growing up. Knowledge is definitely power. So hopefully this has helped you and given you some tips and tricks on how to prepare for your first visit with your reproductive endocrinologist. If there's any questions you have or anything I've missed, please let me know down below. All right, ladies and gents, I'll talk to you later. Bye. Baby, that's to you all.